2-on-1, the internet's #1 conversation that restarts suddenly when necessary.
We're about that resurrection life.
We're about that resurrection life. We are so glad you are here watching or listening with us today. I'm one of your co-hosts, the Reverend Arthur Stewart.
Even 5 minutes later, I'm still the Reverend Stephanie Kendall. So we'll see what happens.
Spiff.
Yeah.
Why am I in charge of any sort of technical production?
Because I'm done being in charge of technical things for a minute.
You did an outstanding job. For those of you who are not of the Disciples persuasion, we just had the Disciples virtual gathering, which was our, hey, we're in a pandemic and we still want to gather, and we did it online. And Spiff is the first vice moderator for the entire Christian Church Disciples of Christ in the US and Canada. And you just did a marvelous job, friend.
Thank you.
Knocked it out of the park.
I appreciate that. Thank you. We had an incredible team that we pulled together to make sure that it happened. I'm one of many in this space, but I am the first vice moderator, which kind of helps oversee that worship component. And with my background as a theatrical marketing producer in my first career, I think some of those gifts were really helpful in the way in which we could reimagine what it means to gather. And so that's it was a really fun time. If you are a disciple or aren't a disciple, you should know that we had some incredible Bible study around Romans and Paul. We had some cool workshops, and there is still time to go over to disciples.org and download and sign up for a downloadable version of the event. And so I highly recommend it, because even just some of those, like the Bible study, I've thought about that Bible study every day since it happened. So I think Arthur froze. Buddy, did you freeze? You froze, or did I freeze?
I not only froze, I vanished. Our recording is back in progress. This is going to be just a mess, and I'm so sorry about that. I lost everything that you said prior.
That's okay. I just said I'm hoping the people online didn't, because it still said that we were live, so that's all right. We can take the recording from online. It's not a big deal.
Should I do this must be 2-on-1 again, or?
No, we're good. I think our people are still watching. I'm gonna check on Facebook really quick.
Yeah.
And say hi.
Outstanding job. For those of you who are not of the Disciples.
No, we're good. I think. Oh, you did. It does cut off when you leave, but that's okay. Y'all, it's 2-on-1. We're here. Let's get to it. It's gonna be one of those
hot mess. But it's our hot mess.
It is our hot mess. I have missed you. I honestly, I know that the ongoing joke is like no one ever knows what day it is, and like especially in COVID. But like the how I mark time is like Wednesday 2-on-1, Sunday worship, and it just kind of like steps me through this year. And when we don't have 2-on-1, or when we pre-record things, I never have any clue what day it is.
I woke up today and I just felt good because it was a 2-on-1 day. But I'll tell you what, it does look like another wave of the pandemic is on us. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I am praying with all of you parents out there that are making some really challenging decisions about the health and safety of your children. It is, this Delta variant is scary, and it is, COVID is still happening and out there. Are you stocked up on masks, Arthur?
Like, kind of. I have a lady down the street who buys a bunch of discount fabric, and then she makes masks, and I like them because I have a very big nose, and like it's roomy, but I that's day-to-day type stuff.
Sure. But what about for church?
Why, Spiff, I'm so glad you asked. I'll be ordering liturgical face masks from Jeff One-Row Designs.
I mean, I saw Jeff at Jeff's booth at the Disciples Gathering and was so excited and kept telling everyone use that 2-on-1 code. So yeah, I mean, besides being a purveyor of stoles and banners and frontals and paraments and copes and chasubles and everything else that Jeff does, because he does a lot. I was looking at his site. He does so many things. The fine folk at Jeff One-Row also make liturgical face masks.
Now, I know what you're thinking. I need one for each liturgical season.
That is what I was thinking. You do need one for each liturgical season. And if I needed one for each liturgical season, Arthur, what are my options?
Well, you can get unadorned double cotton layer face masks in each and every liturgical color, including blue for the Advent weirdos, for $12 each.
I love that. That's so reasonable. But what if I wanted something, you know me, did my nails. What if I wanted something a little bit more flashy?
Little more extra.
A
If
little
you
more
want one
extra.
color embroidery of say like a fleur-de-lis or an Anglican cross or a triqueta,
Ooh,
triqueta,
that is that Celtic knot?
it is, you can do that. Do you want custom text? You can do that. Do you want a multicolored embroidered pattern like a red and white chalice for disciples, or a black and red cross flame thing for Methodists, or a red, white, and blue shield for Episcopalians?
I do want all of those things. Is it
It's
doable?
totally doable. Jeff One Row Designs works with their customers to make the very best product to exacting standards.
If you are ordering 10 or fewer masks, you can use the code mask ship, MASKSHIP, all one word, mask ship, for free shipping in the US, which is an incredible deal. But if you really, really want a great discount, the best one he offers is,
Well, I'm always jonesing for a discount code.
I know you are, you and me both, buddy.
Say it again.
Then you need to buy a stole from Jeff One Row, because our listeners and viewers are dear deuces. You receive 15% off your entire stole order, regardless if you order one or every single one. You will get 15% off your entire stole order by using the code 2on1, all one word, TWOONONE, at checkout.
Actually, if you're going to order every single stole, definitely use the 2on1 discount, because we want to connect the biggest purchase ever made with our show, because we're so thankful for Jeff One Row Designs and their sponsorship. Also, you should love God and love your neighbor as yourself, and the best way to do that is to wear a mask.
Amen. And get vaccinated. I'm just gonna say it straight up: get vaccinated, folks.
Yeah.
If you can and are able, please do.
Yep, don't be dumb. Don't be selfish.
Don't. We want to gather, friends. We want to gather in person.
Even though
yeah.
being people is hard.
Oh, being people is hard, but it is less hard with our good friends over at Jeff One Row, JEFFWUNROW.com. 15% off your stole order with 2on1.
And Sarah sees that we're back and we had like total technical glitches, but we're here and you're here. Hello, Sarah. Welcome back to 2on1.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Also, now that this is my third time as a guest, I figured out the trick, which is to watch live while I'm in the waiting room. So I kind of know what's going on. And so I knew about the technical glitches and I felt right along with you, but you know what? It was fine. Easy to keep up.
Perfect.
And we're still here now.
Did it cut? It cuts out every time Arthur cut out, right? Is that what happened?
A little bit. One time I actually shared it. So when I shared it, I think it cut out on my end too. So
well, I'll tell you
we're all
what,
here.
I think they reset the router here at home base in Wichita, Kansas. So,
Ooh.
you know. Okay, well, welcome. And we are talking about Raya and the Last Dragon. Raya.
My 4-year-old niece, I asked if it was Raya or Raya, and she was just like so confused that I even had the question. She was like, Raya and Sisu. And like just then names all the things, because I was given the heads up. I got to see my niece for the first time in a very long time this summer. She's 4 and wonderful. But my family was like, you may want to brush up on some Raya because it's what she talks about. And so, you know, as much as I love a good Disney movie or a good kids movie, was like, I'm not really in the mood for it, but I will do anything for my niece. So I will watch this. And y'all, it's so good.
It is.
It is.
It's so good.
It's really kind of frustrating. Like, I feel like Raya actually made up for the animated version of Mulan. Like they took Asian mythos. It was the flavor of it. It wasn't a particular adaptation of anything. It was just a story. But there wasn't somebody named Mushu. Sorry, should I not have started off immediately with Disney was super racist in the 90s?
Disney is super racist most of the time, so I think that's okay.
That's a through line. It's fine. But I mean, yeah. So Sarah, talk to us. Our guests know that, or our deuces know that our guests get to pick the topic. we also like had announced a different guest. So we are just grateful, one, for our guests that continue to come back, that enjoy the show as much as we enjoy doing it. And
No
at
one,
the drop of a hat will say yes to coming on. And we are always so grateful that you are here. And so when I was like, hey, Sarah, tomorrow, can you come on 2-on-1? And what do you want to talk about? You were like, Raya.
Yes. Yes. Well, so a couple of reasons. One is I didn't want to say something that was going to obligate anybody to have to stay up all night watching like several episodes of something. And also when I first saw Raya, it is so rich with theological themes and so rich with community themes. And I feel like is also the most 2021 movie we could have asked for, with the themes of needing to trust each other and work together to defeat this big bad that keeps infecting those that we love the most. And so for me, that was just, and I'm a mom, I have 3 kids. So that is why I loved Raya. And for me, you know, Stephanie, you were talking about your niece and kind of watching it through her eyes. And my kids are a little bit older. So when my daughter was 4 was when Brave came out. So it's been really fun. You know, that was kind of their first Disney princess. She was 4. My middle kid was 2. My youngest was 1. You know, like they were in that age. So they've kind of grown with those, like this era of Disney princesses. So Raya is, when I think about the evolutionary arc of Disney and the way they portray female empowerment and things like that, it just was the needed next step.
I love that. I love that your kids are growing up, because I too, hi Fisher kids, have what I consider a special relationship with your kids. I love your children. Yes. And am growing into a relationship with Arthur's daughter as well. And like, I love kids. I love that. But we grew up in an era in which like my favorite Disney princess growing up was Ariel, right? Super problematic for all of the reasons that our worth is based solely on someone else loving us. And watching like Raya and watching Brave and even like Luca, who that just came out, and things like that have come out that says like the power is within the relationship to oneself, and the relationship to the community that builds you and supports you is so important and so cool. I don't even know that there's a question. I was like trying to formulate a question. I was like, but I think maybe my statement is just like, I'm glad. What do we hope maybe comes out of this type of shift in narrative, like storytelling narratives for the young people that are coming up?
I think one of the things that comes to my mind, I think there's a lot of different ways that this can go, but one of the things that I loved about Raya is that there was no question, like with Brave, and then even with some of the movies that have come out since, Moana and some of those, part of the narrative is them needing to get over kind of, oh no. Okay, we still going?
We can edit.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Spiff, you were saying something beautiful and brilliant before my
That's all right. Sarah, we're talking about like how we hope the culture shifts for our children with the empowerment that is coming from these new generation of Disney princesses, for lack of a better term.
Well, my favorite Disney princess is Cusco from The Emperor's New Groove, because he is one. And he's also like the first very clearly gay. Anyways, and you'll notice The Emperor's New Groove had no romantic subtext at all. Frozen eliminated that when they finally moved it away from. You were speaking of that before I went dark, and I wanted to snaps at it. It is interesting that it becomes your value in the relationship is your value. It's not the relationship itself. It's certainly not you being loved by someone else or fixed.
Totally. But Sarah, I want to come back to you, what you were saying.
Oh, that and it all works together, right? Is that Raya, I think, kind of takes that the next step, where for her, it's not even just finding herself the way some of these, Brave and Moana and even Frozen, though that's different, it's a familial relationship. But with Raya, it's not just finding herself. She is a leader, and Namari is a leader, and what they're discovering is community, but it implies that there's no question that they deserve those places of leadership, or that leadership must look a certain way. And that is what I really loved about it.
I love how it very begins too, right? That there are these dragons that are, part of what, this like pantheon of kind of like godlike creatures that help build the like sustainability of community of the humans. And then for lots of different reasons, they get, they are gone, but have given of themselves to make sure that we survive, which has very obvious parallels to like those of us in the Christian faith and what we understand. But that the very first thing you learn about Raya is, that you first think she's trying to steal this, like this kind of gem that is on the thing. She's going in, she's got her sword, her sticks and swords, and, fighting her way to like get there. And you realize once the big reveal happens, that this is her training to protect it. And how are we equipping young people to protect the things that mean the most to community?
It's an interesting question. Do you have a thought on that, Stephanie?
Well, I think part of what I think is happening with the shift of the narrative of these movies is that the thing that is most in community is the thing that is most authentic to the self. And being your authentic self is the thing that you need to protect and fight for to be seen in community. Whereas beforehand, I think we would have seen that what we are trying to protect is a thing, is a history, is a desire to become, or, all those that it's the arc, it's the thing we're fighting for, a tangible thing. Whereas I think what I'm hoping we're posturing our kids to do in this day and age through storytelling, through, education, through community development, is that we're no longer fighting for a thing outside. We're fighting for the thing that resides inside. We're fighting to say, Sarah, your kids, Arthur, your daughter, like the thing that is you, whatever that is, fight to protect that. Fight to make sure that that is seen and known and cared for and cultivated and tendered and all of the things, because that is what is going to make community, that's what makes community sustainable.
So we're relaunching after a couple-year sabbatical, like youth and children's ministry at the congregation I'm serving. And it's interesting because, I don't think I've ever done a youth group where I've pointed to the building in which there is space that is inhabited by youth and said, someday all of this will be yours, right? We build interchangeable disciples. That is, you can go into whatever space, and it's more about having the stories. It's about having the relationship to Jesus. It's about, I would argue, the liturgy as the work of the people, not the liturgy as there's only one right way to say the Lord's Prayer or whatever. And I think that's that which gets fragmented. It would have been really interesting if Raya had to stay and take care of the building because they were attached to it, and nothing could change, and they argued about paint color. That would have made it a real church movie.
Which the world needs, right?
Yeah, we only use 3 rooms once a week, but we need to upkeep this enormous fortress.
Yeah.
And that's not a crack at Riverside, by the way. We're really great with building stewardship, whatever. That's just a crack at the institutional church.
Sure. I'm interested for the two of you, how you took at the beginning of that film. So for those of you that don't know, Sisu is this kind of last dragon who gives all of her power into a single gem to protect the human people from this like monster, this kind of monster writ large. And it fractures the community into different factions, and they're all always trying to get at it, because part of what that gem does is supply like basic human needs like water and things like that. And so it eventually cracks through this fight, and then people get pieces of it, and this movie is about trying to get it back together. And I wonder if there's something for us as faith leaders there in letting the fracturedness of God be fractured. Or maybe even naming that there is a fracturedness of God.
So, okay, the three of us are disciples, and our guiding star, really it's a polar star unity statement, but it's a movement for wholeness in a fractured world. I always want to say a fractured movement for fractured wholeness in a fractured world, because we're the movement on unity that's split 2 times for now. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there as I'm percolating. Sarah, please, your wisdom.
I think that it's interesting to consider what that might look like as being fractured and how that impacts us. Of course, what we realize, spoilers, 2 on 1 is a spoiler show, right? But what we realized at the end was that the power wasn't in the dragon, right? It was in themselves and their trust, like not even in themselves as in individuals, becoming self-aware, but individuals trusting in each other and in the power of community. And that was actually the movement for wholeness that they're working toward at the end. So what does that look like to allow that fragmented God in different ways? I don't know. I do think that sometimes it's possible to strive for unity so much that we lose our authenticity and lose lose our power, to use that language. We lose our power when we're willing to kind of strip away the things that maybe we care about the most, just so we're left with this core. There's really great gifts about that, and there's also some really severe limitations to that.
I think you just named what was sitting with me, and I just didn't have the language for it until now as I think about it, is that, like, it's the idleness of it, right? That it's not like the gem is not necessarily the power, the dragon is not the power is in the connection between the people. But so often we're like, don't break the chalice, don't break the window, don't break the thing where God lives for us in this community, because it keeps us going, right? It's a touchstone. It's good to have touchstones. It's good to say, like, I can wear a necklace that reminds me of my commitment to my faith and my community, or whatever it looks like for you. But when it fractures and they let it be fractured, they don't all sit there and be like, oh, we have all the pieces right now, let's put it back together. They take those pieces and see what they can do with it individually. And the message of it all is that the power of God, of the dragons, of all of it is actually not at stake. What's at stake is the power of community.
And it might work some fractured, but it works for real in community. I struggle with that, with the unity idea, because there's some people where honestly I ended a friendship with somebody because I said, my line is drawn where you think I don't deserve equal protection under the law, because your exegesis is so bad that you have decided I'm less than, and I can't go to a table where we're equal if I'm less than, and I can't go to a table where we're equal if I'm more than either. And I think that's the trick with community. My joke is always compromise is when everybody is unhappy, but community is when everyone sacrifices. Not I make room for all of Spiff's views. I just make room, and Spiff makes room, and Sarah makes room, and David makes room, and that's the space in which the kingdom of God emerges among us. Like we're not the boundary, but we're certainly the perimeter, if that makes sense. It's at the end when they're all statuified, they're all touching, and that's vital. There has to be connection, but there has to be room for everyone to enter the tableau.
I found it really interesting, and I wonder what you all make of this meaning that, at least outside of the last 7 that get, kind of petrified in that moment. But throughout the history of this tale, if the monstery thing gets you, you become like kind of frozen into a statue, but in a very specific posture. It's very much a posture of receiving. It's your hands out in front of you, cupped in a very kind of like how you would to receive communion, which kept reminded me, I was like, oh, this is like a weird like communion pullback. I don't know, how did that speak to y'all, or did it?
You can't save yourself, right? I say it to my church each and every week. If you could have saved yourself, you would have by now. You cannot. And we can talk about what salvation is and isn't another time, and forgive me for using big things. But when people say I'm going to take communion, I'm like, you can't take something that's freely given. And it's just it's a verbiage we use, but it makes me bananas cuckoo crazy when somebody says I'm going to take communion. No, you should receive communion, because you need the reminder that you are not in charge. And I mean, we deal with resurrection, and resurrection only comes from death. And there is this idea of being unable to save oneself, by oneself, for oneself. It then becomes we have to receive. Like I don't get to consent to my resurrection. If that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. I participate in it, but I'm not the one who says now will be the time where this will be the way, right?
Sarah, what do you think? How does that posture kind of? Yeah.
Well, I think that what I love about it is that it's both and. I think that it's both giving and receiving, because the reason, like the original place that we see that is when Sisu's siblings all create the stone at the beginning and then give it to her, which I also think is interesting because she's the one that's like, she even describes herself as being that kid that doesn't really help with the group project, but turns it in at the end, right? Like she even self-identifies as not, like her magic power is that she's a pretty strong swimmer, right? Like she is not the savior that they all had been waiting for. But then when it comes down to it, it's actually her ability to swim across that channel that gets them to where they need to be in the end. And so that is the first time we see it, is when her siblings all create this gem and hand it to her, and she receives it kind of with that same posture. So for me, I saw it as both giving and receiving, and then just kind of waiting, right? Like her siblings give it to her to protect, and then just wait as they become statues.
1000%. Yeah, I really like that. I like that there is this anticipatory waiting that is necessary when we are building community, right? Whether it is waiting for like a like the next part of a conversation, or waiting for, whatever it is. It's kind of, it's hope in a weird way, that there is just, there's hope in the posture of receiving, and in reciprocity for that someone else is waiting for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I always like my definition of hope that I use in preaching is it's not just, they're like, oh, I hope this happens, but like it is an enacted belief that what could be is better than what is. And for me, that is especially for those who aren't kind of overtaken by the Droon, but who give themselves to it. They're enacting this hope, like they know they can't continue to do this, but they're passing, Raya's dad does the same thing. He gives her that portion of the gem and pushes her off a bridge, but to safety where she can't be taken over, and sacrifices himself in that way.
I'm sorry, can we just, as a side note, can we talk about the power of water in this movie? As those of us that, do baptisms and communions, and just, water is life, and justice for Flint, and all the pipelines, and just like everything that happens with water, the reminder that water is not only physical but spiritual life in this movie is so profound.
Can I share with you my new favorite conspiracy theory, by the way?
Yes.
Recently, I'm sorry, this will actually play into this conversation. Recently, like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, and then I forget who else, came out talking about how like, oh yeah, I barely bathe and I don't shower that often and I never wash.
Jake Gyllenhaal is the third on that.
Yeah, thank you. The conspiracy theory is that they're tapping celebrities to try to get people to bathe less because there's going to be a coming water crisis in the West. So they're trying to make it a trend to shower less before they have to start rationing water. But let's talk about this from the perspective of justice then, with water and protection and of course just life giving in it. Raya, when it starts off with her as an adult, she's going through the desert wastes, and she actually in a river valley is where she finds Zizu. But it's dried up. A lot of Christian eschatology, a lot of Judeo-Christian eschatology talks about the desert and the dry land, and the parched land will rejoice in the creation of water, and really the inverse of it. How is the church prepared for the inverse, or are we just banking on the idea that it will never come? That is to say, is the church ready for the great reversal? No, was that a totally weird ass question? I apologize.
I don't no, connected to the water question though. I don't get how
the water question. Water is seen more as an equalizer than it is a one benefits from the other. Right? Like there's the suggestion that once the gem is back together, everyone will have access and ability. It won't just be for one or some in there. The reversal might. This was a.
See, I actually think that that's wrong, at least in the lore of this movie, because we know that the Fang people don't have water even when the gem is together. When she says, "I haven't had rice in a really long time,"
You're right.
and so. I do think water is the great equalizer. I do think that there is something there in the idea that, especially like when we talk about baptism, right? Like that is a space in which, for lack of a better term, we get shoved into for salvation, for saving who we are, and come out of that water, you know, with a new understanding of the mission that we have ahead. Of a commitment to the community that we have. And I think that for Raya is there. And the drying of the water, as you know, because she has that map, she's trying to follow the river's ends to find Zizu. And the drying of that water, for me, was a real parallel to the kind of drying up of the traditional faith valleys that have been kind of have been there for such a long time, that are now dwindling with the shifting perspective of what God is actually calling us to do and be, right? If nobody ever gets baptized for the rest of our days, God still loves us completely. But that has not always been the narrative thought of who we are as Christians, as disciples and things like that. And so for me, there was very much that like drying up the land is not only a scary place in which we're forced to navigate, but it's also kind of a telling space that says, and there are ways to thrive. Look for community, look for ways in which to support each other, because this new way of living is here. And the spirit of the dragons, the spirit of God is still present.
I can accept that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking about that too in relationship to, you know, that conversation where Namari says she hasn't eaten rice, and what levels of privilege Raya had because of her access to all of these things without even recognizing what was not available to even other people with access and privilege in their own communities, right? Like Namari is still the most privileged kid in her realm. Are they villages? I can't remember what municipality.
I think I kept calling them factions because I don't know, like
okay, she's got privilege, and even she doesn't have it, and Raya has just no idea that there's people going without. And so I think that kind of plays into it too, in the role that water as an equalizer plays when there might be places where access plays a bigger role than a lot of people realize, maybe. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of going back to Arthur's point. You know, there has been water issues in the West for a very long time, depending on where you are.
Yeah, and I, you know, as just especially for what's happening now in the world and in regards to climate change, this is a really good way in which to introduce the need to attend to the whole of creation well, right? Like, because these dragon gods, for lack of a better term, are not coming together and saying, y'all are going to love each other and you're all going to be kind to each other. It's saying, here's water. Here's access to life-giving spaces. And I think that that's really important because, especially as we look at, our own Christian scriptures where it's like, what does God create first? The heavens and the earth, and then like water and land and creatures. We are last on that chain, but we are given command to care for, and and it doesn't extend just to the left and right of the humanity, but like Ellie Rocher came on at the very beginning of this season to talk about her book, 12 Tiny Things. And one of the things she reminds us to do is to step outside and just look up and to feel the magnitude of who you are in relationship to what is. And I think this movie does that. This movie says, look up and see who you are in relationship to what is, and how are you called to care for it.
So can we talk about the thieving baby?
Always, yes.
I really liked the supporting characters. I liked them a lot. I thought it was kind of ridiculous. And Bwan is kind of my favorite character of all time. Not of all time. I like an orphan with some hustle about him.
But not really an orphan, like a temporarily geographically orphan.
Is what he is. He's a foster kid.
That's true. Yeah.
But what does it mean that we like, because being a foster parent's just messed me up forever, and that's good, like messed me up in the right way. But I also am like under the severe assumption like my house eventually is just going to be, yeah, you can come stay here, I don't care. Like, oh, okay, yeah, like how long will you be here? Do I need to set an extra place for dinner? And why did no one do that for Bwan? Why is he on a ship by himself? Why is he hustling? He's like 8.
Why is he hustling? He's like 8. Yeah. And that's not, and yes, we want to say like this, and it's a movie, but also there are 8-year-olds in this creation, in our world, that are hustling, that are living on their own. And so I maybe it's a movie that makes us look out for them, right? Like,
well, we have to, and Raya's a leader. Namari is a leader, and at some point to be led, someone else has to follow. And I think what we've developed into, as we talk about fracturing and as we talk about factioning, definitely watched Hamilton incidentally this weekend, so I've got our cabinet's fractured into factions, because David Diggs is my secret boyfriend. It is, as you're talking about fracturing and factioning, everyone now gets to lead themselves however they wish. It's like radical libertarianism with no sense of obligation or skill. So if we're dealing with, Bwan is going to make it, and people see him making it enough, so it's fine. I'm going to take care of my needs, and I'm going to do what I need to do, and that lets them take care of their needs and what they're going to do. And it comes back, I think, to sacrifice once again. Like, you have to make room for this kid in your house. He's going to be loud, and he's going to mess things up, and he's going to need you. But you may also need him. I don't know. I'm sorry. The tech glitches in the beginning totally turned off the part of my brain that makes reasonable statements in a short amount of time.
I have kind of 2 different trains of thought based on what you just said, which I love. One of them, I'm not going to say a whole lot about, because I'm really hoping that at some point you have a guest come on to talk about the Mysterious Benedict Society. Have you watched Mysterious Benedict Society?
I haven't even heard of it.
Okay. It is on Disney Plus. Deuces, is that what you're calling your people? I'm hoping that somebody listening has listened to the Mysterious Benedict Society, because I would love to hear this episode. It is a fantastic show. It's on Disney Plus, so it's a great family show, right? Because it's for kids, but it's not shticky the way a lot of stuff for kids is. It's by Tony Hale. It's great.
I love Tony Hale. Okay.
Yes. But it's about four kids who had been orphaned, and how they kind of come together to save humanity. But in I'm not going to give away spoilers, other than to say that in the season finale, which just came out last week, one of the main characters makes a comment about how family is expansive, and family means that we're going to stick together, right? Like, we are going to work together and stick together and have each other's backs. And if that means setting an extra table, an extra place at the dinner table, then that's what that means. If it means empowering you to go on your way, then that's what that means. And so, I rewatched Raya this morning with and kind of having just listened to that, and this idea of, these people who even the what is the guy, like the adults that they get along the way, like the big guy that they get along the way. There's Bon Baby, there's Bound. I can't remember how you.
I think it's Blanc. Yeah. Oh, what is that guy's
And
name?
But so all of them don't have other family, but then they become this new expansive idea of family, which is really the heart of what Raya is all about, which is what I love.
Well, and there's like a very queer kind of understanding of what it means. Nice eye, Sarah.
It's Kong, and he's voiced by Benedict Wong of all people. So just pointing that.
Interesting. But there's some real kind of beautiful queerness of this movie, in which you get not only, I think, some kind of tension between certain characters, but you get chosen family as just as meaningful as your biological family, and not to replace or to do anything like that, but to say, like, the people you choose to journey in this world with matter, and the people that you can count on, the people that you trust as yours, that's a holy and good space. That it is not, if you're, for whatever reason, biological family is not the family that you end up journeying with, your chosen family is there for you, and to choose your family, right? You don't have to go this alone. You get to say, who are you? There is connection here. Let's be this to each other. And I thought that was a really beautiful kind of narrative of like how to choose and how to create meaningful family. It very much, I was like, oh, this is how. So, y'all, in my like, Spiff doesn't like Paul narrative. Spiff also doesn't like the Book of Job, because the Book of Job, the ending to Job is not a real ending. Everyone's like, oh, he gets everything he wants. I was like, no, his family is still dead. Like, he gets a new family, but that's not his. Like, it drives me out of my mind. And I was like, I rewatched this movie last night and was like, this is how the Book of Job should have ended. This is like that. Not only do you the new family that Job has created, but his old one comes back, and then you get more family. That like that would make the Book of Job meaningful to me. Not that God was like, kill all your people, like as a joke with Satan, be like, let's see if he can take this, and like all these things, and then at the end it's like, oh, but here's a new family, and it's like, what?
Women and children are interchangeable.
Right. And so
expendable for the role that they play.
Yeah.
Not
and so
women and children.
And so for, this story saying, as everyone starts to unthaw in the end, or what is the word for unstoning?
I think they're rehydrating, really.
Yeah, there you go. The rehydration of your family. That when that happens, part of me feared that the connections that had been built that got us to this place would break because they no longer were needed. And then I was like, oh no, that's not it at all. Those are still very much needed. We need to tell that story too, and make room for this new family. And I just thought, like, can we open the canon again on Job and just like rewrite a new ending that's better?
Well, I just want to point this out because it's literally the scripture I'm working on this week to preach on as we talk about proclamation. In Luke chapter 4, Jesus like jumps around Isaiah and he plays with the text and he cuts out verses and he just kind of like glues things together. And if Jesus can do it, why can't we? So I'm just going to leave Job from here on out as God being like, did you put the stars in the sky? Are you the one who named them? Have you seen the storehouses of snow? Maybe you should let me do my thing. And I'm just going to end it, is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to ignore the last however many verses of Job, like I do the book of Nahum. When's the last time you read Nahum?
Weirdly, not that long ago, but that's...
But you get my point. Why did you read Nahum?
That's a whole other question for a different time. Because I am a demon student. And I like the Bible, and I think that it's meaningful, and I think that for me, we've talked about this. I don't know, Sarah, is the canon closed for you?
No.
Me neither. Arthur, what about you?
Oh, heck no. I would put so much Hafiz into the Bible just to ruin people's days. Like, you just need a weird queer Persian to talk about God for a while. It's perfect.
I would throw Thecla in there so hard to be like, watch this woman say F you to Paul and baptize herself. Let's do it.
As a scholar of Paul, I would love to see that in the canon. Sarah, who's your favorite character in this movie? Who do you identify with?
Ooh, oh, I had not thought about that. I don't think that there's one person that I specifically identified with. I identified with I think different elements of different characters. I want to see the same story told from Namari's perspective. Like, I want to see a completely different movie, but that where she is the main character, but same storyline, like not a sequel, but like this same movie. Because
so it becomes, why is this privileged girl deciding that she's in charge? Why do I have to hunt her down? It's kind of like with Zuko in The Last Airbender.
But really, both of them are working with the information that they have, right? And neither of them have the full picture. So just like Raya at the beginning is trusting, and then they have this exchange, and then she never trusts anyone again, right? Like Raya does not know what life is like for people in other places. And Namari, she only has the information that her mom gave her. Like both of them. And I think that's a part of growing up, is when we realize that what is normal for our little family, whatever that family is and looks like, is not normative for everybody. Like,
is the way we deal with trauma engaging with people who are unlike us?
Say more about that.
That is to say, and when I say trauma, I think I mean more of the peculiarities of our upbringing.
Okay.
I will say, I never understood until I was much older that like my friends didn't just fight all weekend with their families every weekend. And so like engaging with that, and like where people were like, no, I loved hanging out with my parents. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's different. Is it, if Namari had never left her homeland after that one not incursion or whatever, where they fractured it, she would be steeped only in that perspective. Is it finding other people and with their faults and
I think you cut out again. We're doing so good.
Well, so going along with, I think what he was sort of saying, what I heard from that question is what broadened her perspective beyond, what she had been presented and what she had experienced. And I think that is true, but for her, Namari's story pivoted when she met Sisu, right? Sure. Like that was when she realized there are different experiences. There are different, there is a truth that I did not know. And so that is, I think, why I'd like to see her perspective. Are you still there? You are the host now.
Well, I'll hit record.
Okay.
There we go. Perfect. Well, yeah, and I'm with you on Namari, I think, is my person too. If I had to like choose the character, like if I were a child acting this out as I was wont to do as a child, like I think I'd be Namari. But what I like about Namari, and I think this is probably rings true for like who I am. Like, I think she's an Enneagram 3. I think, okay. I see that. Whereas I think Raya is a 2. But like Namari is doing this for her people, right? Like it is not the selfishness of I want the power. It is my people are hungry. We put up a front of look how fancy we are, and yet the reality of our lived experience is a lot more convoluted and tangled than we lead on, and it's hard to trust that those that have hurt us in the past aren't going to continue to do so. And so for me, Namari is really just like rang true of a lot of who we are. And I think a lot of who we are in the nation right now, a lot of like, there's just a lot of for a movie that is based on trust, there's a lot of distrust in our communities and in our nation and in our world. And what I love about this movie is that it's like, sometimes you're gonna have to be the one that takes the first step.
Right. And I think that's kind of what Sisu points out, is that yeah, I think there's even this, there's, you know, one of those little heartfelt moments that they have where I think it's when Sisu says, like, being people is hard. And they have this whole conversation about trust, and Sisu says, but you can trust. And Raya says, well, I hoped we could be friends. And Sisu says, well, maybe you still can be. After all of this, maybe you still can be. And that is, I think, the hope that I cling to when I look around. And I was telling someone this week that I try to operate from an assumption of goodwill for everybody. Like, I really strive to remember that everybody is doing the best they can for their people, right? To use the language of this movie, everybody's doing the best they can for their people. And sometimes we are operating from different perspectives. We have different information available to us. We have different access. And so because of that, we experience different truth. The rub then is when there is a factual truth that is not part of people's experience. But I still, this last year has really put that to the test, right? Like, as we are having conversations around public health right now, that a lot of my really striving to feel like everybody is operating out of their best self has been put to the test. But I still cling to that hope. And for me, that is what being a person of faith means, right? That I believe that what could be is better than what is. And for me, as a Christian, that is centered on the work of the Spirit moving in and among all of humanity, whatever their belief is, to kind of bring about this collective common good. That doesn't just keep us physically safe, but it keeps us whole, and it increases access for everyone and all of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that I mean, I love the, like, who, doing your best for your people. But then what this movie also reminds us is, like, and who your people are will ebb and flow with relationship, right? Like, because if all you do is say, that little baby stole from me, right? And that little baby belongs in a different part of to a different people than I consider my people. And yet at the end, it's like, but it's a baby, and this baby needs care and trust and love and guidance and all the things, right? And so, like, and that's just through relationship. That's the only way in which we're going to grow. It's why, I, as a white person, as a, cis het white person, don't actually unfriend those on my timelines that see things differently than I do, because it is my responsibility to say, here is, the ways in which I understand the expansive beloved community to work. Let me, with a hermeneutic of curiosity, why is it that you have approached this thing in this way? And to keep at it until through relationship we can say, let's come together.
Right.
And sometimes that's easier than it is with others. And I think that also Raya shows us that, right? There are some people that after a day you work through your things and you hop on board. And there are some people that after, years, you finally get there. And there are some people that you'll never get there with, but that's okay too, because the point is that we try to engage the beloved community in faithful and authentic and sustainable ways as often as we can.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is shown, as their family, as their chosen family expands throughout the movie. With every single one, at first they are introduced as kind of a villain, or, one of my favorite, probably my second favorite line is like, a con baby, you have to be kidding me. Like, of course there's a con baby. But like with each one of them, they realize that what they share in common is that they all have been impacted by, like, all of them have lost the people they love. And that is what brings them together, even though their first introductions aren't from that space. They're from almost an antagonistic space. Then once they realize, oh, wait, you also have been hurt. You're also operating out of survival, out of wanting the best. That's when they're able to come together.
Absolutely. And I think that if the church postures itself in such a way as well, that we could really learn and grow from Not that we have to always operate from a place of like collective trauma, although I think to think otherwise in this space and time in our world is antithetical to the work that we're actually trying to do. We have to name that every one of us are trauma informed right now through a global pandemic. And to say like, oh, they're just like that because of whatever, and not offer the grace that we are called to offer, really is detrimental to the kingdom that I think we are trying to build, or the amulet that we're trying to, or the stone we're trying to put together through relationship and work. Yeah. Well, Sarah, thank you so much. We are so sorry for all these technical glitches and all the things, but you're a third timer. I feel like we need to get you like a jacket, like a little, you know,
like on SNL,
the Five Timers Club. Yeah. Like, you know, you're in good company as a I don't know where he's going. As a third timer.
He's just done. It's pandemic times. We have grace for technology and all of those things.
Absolutely. But thank you so much for coming on. As you know, our final question is the same. That is our through line, our tenor of curiosity for us. What biblical story, character, book, theme are you most reminded of in Raya and the Last Dragon?
Yes. So there's so many, and I thought about all of the different stories and all the different characters and everything, but I kept coming back to, because of these pandemic times that we are in right now, and because of conversations around public safety and public health. And I'm going to read this from the Inclusive Bible.
That's my Bible.
Yeah, I know. It's my favorite. So I'm going to read, like, just actually read the Bible from.
Welcome to Bible study with 2-on-1 friends.
I'm going to read from the book of Philippians, chapter 2, and this has been a prevalent through theme, I think, in a lot of conversations recently as we've talked about this, but it very much also is present in Raya and the Last Dragon, and what brings them together both is their concept of family expands, and then what they need to save themselves and the people they love and their realms and strangers at the end. If our life in Christ means anything to you, if love or the spirit that we have in common or any tenderness or sympathy can persuade you at all, then be united in your convictions and united in your love with a common purpose and a common mind. That is the one thing that would make me completely happy. There must be no competition among you, no conceit, but everybody is to be humble, value others over yourselves, each of you thinking of the interests of others before your own. And if that isn't like the theme underneath that last scene as they are attempting to put together the gem, I don't know what is.
Oh, I love that. Arthur, are you back?
Maybe.
All right. Well, do your final question.
My final question.
Your final answer.
Yeah, my final answer is Ruth. But the concept of Ruth, because Ruth was written concurrently with Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy says no Moabites shall enter the kingdom of heaven, even to the 10th generation. And Ruth is about a Moabite entering the assembly of God. So more of a Ruther than a Deuteronomist. And that's Raya.
Oh, I like that. I'm going with, I thought of this for whatever reason, because I went through, like, I pulled a piece from Jeremiah 17 about trust, because this is an entire thing about trust. But really, as I kind of showered and was getting ready for this today, I was like, oh, this is a story about Holy Saturday. It's the work that we have to do, that there is work to be done between Good Friday and Easter, that there is work to be done, community to build, relationships to sustain and maintain and attend to, and faith to be had in the what you hope to come and what you have experienced to be.
I love that.
So for me, that is, Raya is a story of Holy Saturday, and who we are as people awaiting on the resurrection of what is to come.
That's great.
Well, that is marvelous. Sara Nave Fisher, thank you for being our guest today on 2-on-1 as we talked about Raya and the Last Dragon. And we learned that there is no such thing as consistent internet in Wichita, Kansas. Spiff, who do we have coming up on the docket the next few weeks?
Oh my goodness, we have such a great lineup. We have Another person in South Carolina, so exciting, and a new guest, Alexis Carter Thomas, who we are coming to talk Brandi Carlile, which we're very excited about. Here's my pitch to you all out there. And if you have talked to me in the last 6 months, you have heard this. Read Broken Horses. It's Randy, but don't just read it, get the Audible. The way in what I want to talk about, well, part of what I want to talk about next week is the difference between reading someone else's story and hear someone telling their own story.
Proclamation, testimony.
Exactly. The way Brandi Carlile reads her story and emphasizes different parts of it, and then it is punctuated with songs that she wrote of that time. It's really beautiful. As someone who is known as a singer-songwriter, to implement that in this book about her singing, songwriting, and life, it is so good. So we're talking all things Brandi, but there is going to be that focus. So if you have not, listened to it, you can get it for free from your local bookstore and download it as the Audible, or as the audio version, or go on Audible, whatever it is you get your way of listening to books. I encourage you to do that. The week after that, we have Alexis Lilly coming on, who is an Air Force chaplain and who is a pastor here in New York City, a disciple who I dearly love, although I don't know if we have a topic yet, but that'll be coming. But she is booked officially. So
sometimes we have guests with topics. Sometimes we have guests without topics. Sometimes we have guests with topics without dates. It's great. Our production meeting.
If you out there have taken Sara Nave Fisher's suggestion and you are watching, what's that show called, Sarah?
Mysterious Benedict Society.
The Mysterious Benedict Society, or I don't know, I've been calling for an SVU conversation for a while, or
Hocus Pocus.
we have Hocus Pocus lined up.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, but I'll toss out there. How about Batman 66, Wayne's World, The Mask?
Oh, I would love a Wayne's World conversation, y'all. I would love an SNL conversation too.
Anyways, if you want to make our day, do some of that. If you want us to make your day, name a topic and we'll make it happen.
Go to 211project.com, y'all. That is a way in which you can connect to us. You can watch all of our episodes. You can listen to them all. You can see what's happening. 211project.com. Submit, subscribe, do the things that you have to say and do for social media.
And we are sponsored by Jeff One-Row Designs, and my GIF or JPEG of Jeff One-Row Designs isn't working right now, but we're going to say Jeff One-Row Designs a few times so people know we're sponsored by Jeff One-Row Designs. You can see more of Jeff One-Row Designs at Jeff One-Row, JEFFWUNROW.com. This has been a technical glitch filled episode. I guess, what is the name of the little germ shadow dehydrators in Raya? Drone. These are digital drones hitting me hard today. But Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. Spiff, it's always a pleasure. And deuces later.
Bye.
Bye. I'll end it on Facebook if you stop the recording.
Sure.